My name is Elgin James, and I'm a filmmaker. Yeah, I grew up kind of tough circumstances when I was a kid, and in a really kind of violent and abusive household. Um, and that sort of led me. It's funny because I had a lot of nervous tics. I was so terrified of the world when I was a kid. I was like so scared, and there didn't seem to be any sort of like sense of justice. There didn't seem to be any sort of sense of order by any means. You didn't know. You're just this, and kind of left by the wiles and emotions and moods of adults, who could be terrifying. And the only time that I didn't have the tics was when I'd watch a movie and or read a book, really. And it was my mom, Beta, who had adopted me, that really figured that out. And so it always kind of became my escape. And I ended up on the streets for a while, starting when I was a teenager, and that always just became my escape. Like film became my escape. And me and my best friend, we'd be living in an abandoned building, and I'd pretend like, oh dude, I just met this girl, I gotta go hang out with her, man, I'll be right back. And then I'd go to like an art house cinema and watch these movies, but I was so embarrassed of it. But that was like me, in the same way with books. I'd always keep books like hidden under my mattress or my sleeping bag and stuff because I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to find out that I had like a John Steinbeck book or something, And and that was that. So it was sort of like, even in the darkest of dark, and I definitely, I think there's a time where you can go one way or the other. And I definitely went down. I definitely chose a dark path for a long time, for decades of my life. And you all but think, when the world has done a bunch of stuff to you, and then you start doing a bunch of stuff to the world back to try to gain this sense of justice. And I just thought that part, the part that I try to keep so hidden, the vulnerable part, and I guess what would be the creative part that I was so embarrassed of and ashamed of. Once I got out of that life, it was still there, which I guess we all have, which I was so amazed by, and that's how I became a filmmaker. You grow up, and like I said, sometimes the people that are supposed to lead you have their own demons, and it just obviously keeps this cycle going, and then you grab your own demons for yourself and pass them on and so forth, and it wasn't until literally that I'd gotten out of, it was because my mom had died. That's really what kind of catapulted me out of that life, because I was with her on her deathbed. I spent the last few weeks with her, and I'd give her nothing to be proud of at all. I was just like a loser in a gang at that point. And so I made promises to her that I was going to change my life. Everything was going to be different. And, you make deathbed promises to your mom. You're like, I'm going to do this. This is it. And then I stayed where I was living in Boston, and I just couldn't do it. I tried to, and then you get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning from your brothers that need you, and I had to go. That was loyalty. That was my family. It was a very intense time. What time I'd come to LA, and I was trying to do different projects and figure out, I'd never written a screenplay before. I didn't know anything about movies really, except that I wanted to be part of them. I wanted to tell stories. Because I really feel like movies had saved my life. Everyone's like, film, it's not rocket science, or it's not brain surgery, but it still saved my life. You know what I mean? It was the only thing that got me through. It was the only time I could sit in a dark theater and not feel so alone in the world, And that's what I wanted to be part of. And I wanted to be part of it, telling my own story. And then people came to me about, hey, we should make a movie about your life. And I was having a hard time at the time. So I was like, this is amazing. This is awesome. Making movies is so easy. This is great. And I have this A-list actor and this A-list director and these very smart writers. And I wasn't going to write or direct. I was just sort of the guy they brought, they shuffled into the room and then shuffled out. And, but at the time, having lived life since I was a child, a very young child, like surrounded by violence and then being part of violence, I didn't know how I felt about it all. And they're trying to basically shimmy the story down into something very clear cut, which is like we were Robin Hood kids out doing these positive things, and look at us. And and there is justice in the world. And the story wasn't that simple. The story, there was much with anything. Once you tried, we were trying to do, or I was trying to do, I can only speak for myself, unjust acts to try to bring about justice, or what I thought maybe they were more immoral acts because they were violence against people I thought who were immoral, and I thought that would balance itself out. And So I didn't know how I felt about the violence, and people were dying. And so I just knew that this is not something I want to pass on to other people. You know, I didn't want to keep that cycle going, that people could look up to that, and not in a way of just demeaning my past either, because I still have the same beliefs. You know, I'm in the same situations. I'm sure I would still do the same things. I just keep myself out of those circumstances. I walked away from that project, right? And I'm like, I want to tell the story myself and figure out how to do it. And then I wrote this film, Little Birds, which was about me and my best friend, but I turned this into 15-year-old girls instead, so it kind of like still address violence, but in a very different way, and talk more about what was more important, which is like our friendship, you know, and the emotions behind that. And so after doing that, that's when I came into Robert Redford and the Sundance Labs, and that's when my whole life changed, you know. And they were like, it was insane to sit across from Robert Redford and then also the actor Ed Harris, and they were basically, for the first time, I had like positive male role models in my life. And it was crazy because here I am in my 30s, but I finally have these are who I want to grow up to be. I spent my whole life not knowing what a man was supposed to be. I thought a man was supposed to be something that caused so much damage and havoc. You know, like I said, me and my friends were just boys without dads, really. Even if the dads were there, they weren't really dads. And then I had these men, I'm like, this is who I want to grow up to be. And they're so, obviously they're men, but they're also just so in touch with their creativity and their vulnerability, and they kept pushing me to go further and further. And Robert Redford especially just called me out on all my stuff, and about violence, about my past, about everything. Just pulled my card and just basically like, you're still, you know, you're stunted. These things happen to you as a 7-year-old child, and you're still stuck there. And you went from a 7-year-old child to then a 22-year-old child or man, and you know, child in a man's body causing all this havoc and damage. He's like, and that's not going to bring you to an artist. Like, you try to do these things, but still, it just brought you further and further down. You need to get past all of that to your truth and your vulnerability. Don't pay attention to what your dad may have done to you. Let that go, but pay more attention to what your mom did, she was a pacifist and a Quaker, and just how she lived her whole life by her morals quietly. And so this amazing, so obviously you hear that from anybody, then hear from Robert Redford, you're like, oh my God, you know? But if real life was a movie, it was like your brothers that would be there, whoever. And when I looked around, those weren't the people that were around. You know, it was this little English girl named Juno Temple that was still there as my producers. It was Brian Grazer, the day of my sentencing, not knowing how long I was going to go to prison for, paid me, had me sign a contract and paid me to write a screenplay so my wife would have money while I was in prison the whole time, and I'd have something to look forward to on the other way out. So the only reason like we're here together is just through mentors. The only reason that we're here is because of other people that were generous enough to see, because there was nothing on paper to say that I had any sort of worth. You know, there's actually, on paper, there's lots of documents that I was worthless. And still people were generous enough to see something in me. I still don't know what it is, but so back to your question, it was insane. So I was sentenced to prison, but at the same time, like, this person had taken this stake in me and put this stake in me and my voice, and made me feel important, that my voice was important to get out into the world. And that was one of the reasons why you just keep getting up, you know, because you keep falling. You know, you make it up to this next level of like, oh man, I'm a filmmaker, but you just still fail every day. You fall on your face every day. But the reason why I get up are for those people who believed in me. As far as publicity, I'm always going to be, not always, because that's exactly what I want not to be. I want the conversation to move on from just being the ex-gang member who's now a movie maker, you know, but still understand that that's what people are going to want to talk about. Like the meeting I discussed earlier, that's what they want to talk about for 20 minutes. But I'm going to give you an honest answer about it. You know, that's not going to become my persona. People were very, very surprised. Some people, I think, very, very disappointed when Little Birds premiered. And it was not a movie about a bunch of guys, you know, robbing, although there was some guys robbing in the movie, but that's not what it was about. It was about these two 15-year-old girls, the end of their friendship. But when people started to post about it, you know what I mean? When, like, someone would post, like, their own scars, like, on Instagram, where, you know, split screen with a scene from Little Birds, or talk about it, you know, or make their own posters from it, that's when it was like, that's it, you know? Or someone posted on their Instagram a poster that they'd made for Little Birds, but then the rest of her posts were all like her in this small town with her sheep and with her pigs. That's exactly how I grew up, you know? So I mean, my whole thing is like, I'm broken. Like I think we all have this wreckage inside of us, and that's what I want to put on the film, just just because you have to get it out as an artist, as you know, you have to, whether it's inside of you, whether the world wants it or not, you need to get it out. And when the people, so I was not so worried of the people who did not have that getting it, but the people who also have their own wreckage recognizing themselves in that meant more to me than anything else in the world. That's the whole point of this, is you do it so you don't feel so alone in the world. It's like this, a voice crying out into this, like, this is going to sound dramatic, but it's true, and you're like, it's dark and you're in the wilderness and you yell out, and then all of a sudden from way off you hear a voice back, and there's no greater feeling in the world. I guess if I had to tell someone who's either in my positions that I was in the past, or just no matter what position, whether it's that or something else right now, whether you're sitting very comfortably right now, no matter what it is just the fact that you can do it. If anyone can do it, like, I mean, it's not if I can do it, anyone can do it. And I mean, the fact that I've been where I've been and was able to tell, or able to tell the stories that I'm telling, it just really proved that you can change your life around. I was way past my expiration date, you know what I mean? I was so surprised. Everyone thought I was gonna die by the time I was 16. And then you grow up and you're 25 and you're like, what do? I wasn't supposed to be here. I just continue doing worse things and worse things. And the fact that I'm here now, that's just it, is just figure out what your truth is and don't let anybody sway you, because they're gonna try to. Everyone's gonna try to, and the fact, it's so hard when you're off on your own beat and everyone's going one way, but your one beat is what's gonna inspire others. You know what I mean? It's like that thing inside of you, and like I said, even just like to go to like a heartbeat, maybe like our heartbeats just change a little different, has a little timpani drum in it or something compared to everybody else's, but we're so embarrassed of that, and we're so ashamed of that, we want to hide that. That's what's going to make you soar, that's what's going to make you fly, just your own actual individual voice. And that's what to say, just do stuff, put it out into the universe. In other words, big or small, just do it, and do it right now. Put pen to paper, take a camera, do something, no matter what it is. I don't know what business or something would be, but do that, whatever it is, you know what I mean? Just whatever you feel inside of you, just put it out, and you're gonna get laughed at, you're gonna get judged, and then later those same people are gonna call you a genius. And they're gonna talk about how they knew you back then.